Good stuff. Welcome, welcome, Facebook friends. This is the first Facebook Live of 2020, and I'm super excited to be doing this with the person you're seeing to my left or right. Not sure where you've seen it. But yeah, I'm super excited because I've known Jay for a while, and the last time we spoke for quite a while, and previous time we spoke for quite a while, and then it just occurred to me, well, what if we just talk, so that also other people could see us, because I feel like you have so much to share, and I'm just not sure if we'd be able to share everything I'd like to share in this live call, but I guess we can start. So, yeah, just gonna give you a brief introduction about Jay. So Jay is a teacher, writer, speaker, and the founder of ARIYA Creed, a powerful self-mastery philosophy for the warriors in spirit.
That's right.
And she teaches her students the path of spiritual warriorhood, the path of transformation and awakening the hero within. Her techniques help you align with your life purpose and achieve more than you ever thought possible using the hidden powers of your mind. And our turbulent time needs warriors and inspiring heroes who will restore and elevate society as a whole. And from her younger years, Jay had recognized the need and worked on finding a way to make it happen. So just from this, I mean, it just gives me chills, and it's just such pleasure to be discussing these topics with you today. And as I said in the beginning, I think it would be a bit difficult for me to cover everything I like to cover. So could we start just from ARIYA Creed, telling us about what is it, how did it start, and why you're so passionate about it?
It's, as you just explained, a philosophy for warriors in spirit, because ultimately what I've noticed, many people going into self-development, the current self-development state is a bit like an IKEA, a spiritual IKEA, where you go and they give you parts and here is the box, good luck. Except they don't even give you a proper instruction of how to put it together. So you are supposed to figure it on your own. And so what happens with many people, because they just kind of, well, again, imagine like a huge IKEA hanger, and they just walk there aimlessly, hoping that they will find something that is useful, and then that they will be able to put it together. But what happens is they never really get far, even after years of practicing and lots of money spent. So what I've realized, that what is missing is an underlying strategy, an underlying philosophy, some modus operandi, some operational system, if you will. And because it's lacking in our day of age, and we have lots of scattered notions and ideas and kind of, well, almost illusions of what is good and what is bad, but without any measuring system to say, all right, I should be doing this because this is good, I shouldn't be doing that because that's bad. And in the past, if you think about it, in the past, people used to have this system always. And when we hear about great legends and heroes and inspiring leaders of the past, they always had something to live by. They had a creed. And so, because it's missing in our day of age, we actually need to bring some heroes back, or rather, we need to bring them up. And so, what I did, and this is my life's work, what I did, I put together those scattered fragments because I'm a researcher. So I've spent at least 20 years researching, putting those scattered bits together, testing them again, recreating that system that once allowed people to reach their true greatness, and to give this system back to the people. So this is what ARIYA Creed is. It allows you to restructure your mind to become a true hero, a true leader, a real life superhero, if you will, and not just transform yourself, but also serve the world greatly. And as I said, yeah, always lived through it, with it. It's my life's work.
Awesome, awesome. When did this journey start?
It depends. Are you asking about this lifetime?
That's exactly where I'm going. I'm getting at. No, where do you feel it actually started? All the way back.
Well, we try to keep this short, so if I start talking about all the way back, it's never going to wrap up in 30 minutes. But I can mention it briefly. My first memories of doing this kind of work go about 2000 years ago. I would say roughly 2300. I never bothered to look it up exactly. Never had the need. So back then, ancient kingdoms that are no longer in existence, such as Media and Babylonia, were the main cultural centers of not just the ancient world, but especially for spiritual and personal development. So from that time, I was on the journey on and off, but essentially, you always come back home. You always come back to what your soul is here to deliver to the world. And this is why, in this lifetime, although I did hesitate, because it's quite a big task, as you can imagine, it's not something that keeps you quiet and like a quiet little unnoticeable person that just reads books, which which was me in my younger years. And so what I'm doing now is the exact opposite of that. But ultimately, thing is, we are not here just to feel comfortable. We're here to grow and to grow as people and to create space for other people to evolve as well. And so that mission, that duty, for me was much more important than anything else. And this is why I embarked on this journey in this lifetime as well. And although I did remember many things, even as a child, this is why I could never be a child properly, because I was, well, an adult mind in a child's body. But as I said, it took me quite a few years to just put together a way that I could teach it in the modern day of age, because obviously quite a few things changed since then. And some things like, we didn't have the internet and we didn't have YouTube back in media, but there are also several restrictions that are imposed by the modern requirements. So it took me a few years, but eventually, you know what they say, where there is a will, there is a way. And it's true about anything you want to achieve. So if you put intent into something, you will get there. And I basically became a proof for myself, well, and for others, I guess, as well, that this is true.
Awesome, awesome. So what do you think are those limitations that are imposed by the modern age?
Well, every era has its own propaganda and its own censorship. And this is all I'm going to say about the subject.
Okay, yeah,
for now.
get it. Totally get it. So talking about, because obviously a lot of people watching might get interesting, and we'll share, your website and some other resources towards the end. But I know you've worked with quite a lot of students, most of them men. And I'd love to know what's the process, what's the journey that you've taken these people through, and the results and the transformation that you've helped them achieve.
All right. So, yes, I work with men because my focus of work is self-empowerment and reaching greatness for men. The reason for that is because the male mind and the female mind are quite different in many ways, and also in the ways they learn and in the ways they unlock their power. And so my method is specifically designed to benefit guys who are on the journey of self-discovery, of tapping into inner strength, and of serving the world greatly. And so what I do is a 3-step process with Mind Mastery Level 1, where we learn about the different aspects of the mind, or the elements of the mind, as I call them sometimes, because it's much easier to think of the mind as having elements. It's intuitive, you know, everyone understands what's fire, what's water, what's air. And so we understand our own mind through seeing the mixture of those and how they interact. And so we can also understand other people. And what happens once we understand those elements of the mind, it's like learning to speak different languages of the mind. And what happens, you go to someone and you pick up who they are as a person straight away. So it's way better than cold reading, because you're not cold reading them. You actually know who you're talking about. And straight away, you know about their strength, you know about what they like, what they probably dislike. And obviously, you can ask a few questions to really make it sharp. But ultimately, you know who this person is you're talking to, and you know how to talk to them to the best effect for yourself, obviously, and for the person involved. And so it gives a much smoother experience at work, but also it creates much deeper and meaningful relationships and partnerships with other people. And so you need this to understand how your mind works and how it manages your internal body energy and how it creates your life strategy without you realizing. Because if there is something that you're unaware of, you can't control it. So you have to understand what kind of strategy your mind is creating for you. And from that place, you can go to mind mastery level number 2. And on the second level, you learn about the mind gates. And that takes you very close to unlocking an amazing, amazing power potential within you. Because ultimately, the way we interact with people, but also the way we create your own reality, is down to the state of our mind. And as you may remember, your mind creates your reality. And it's very, very true. So by understanding how your mind gate system works, what is lacking, and what you need to say open or close, and how to rearrange that system for what you need in your life, on your mission, you pretty much become unbeatable. You become a real life superhero, as I like to call it, like a spiritual ninja. And on the normal, everyday, mundane level, I would say that's pretty much all you need. You become so much more advanced than anyone else, then you can easily deal with most difficulties and, you know, most life circumstances, and help others in the process, protect them as well, and teach them and heal them. So do all those things, like, you know, you become almost like a paladin. They were warriors, healers, and if you play games, you know who they are, obviously. So you become like one of those, but in real life. And for most people, that's what they need. But occasionally I meet some guys, some students who are here on a special mission, and they know it, they can sense it in their heart that they are here to do something great. But the problem is they don't know what it is and even how to go about it. And, you know, thing is, we all are born here for something. We all are born here to deliver, to bring some gift to the world. But some people feel that this burden is greater than perhaps some other people around them. And so those guys need special training. They need more than just the everyday mundane stuff. Even the second level is in no way mundane. It's literally, some of my students describe it like, you know, some magic academy, occlumency and all of that magical stuff, because it goes beyond the level of the human life. But as I said, for those people who feel that they're here on a mission to serve the world greatly, and they need tools for that, and it's more like a special forces training. This training is done in person, so I would go with them for a week, at least once, sometimes twice, it depends on the student. And we would go actually to Italy mostly. That's, yeah, because Italy has, as a place, has a very sacred energy. And my philosophy is always to make training as easy and as powerful for my students as I can. For this reason, other countries just don't have this kind of energy that we need, except Italy. There are others, but they're further away, like Japan, for example. So we'd go to Italy, rent a villa there, and stay there for a week, train together, and after that, as I said, you basically on your way to become as a member of the special elite spiritual forces in the world. So this is what I do.
Awesome, awesome, wow. Yeah, struggling more and more to keep this short, but I think this is great. You know, as I said, it's your life's work. By the way, I might have found a new place to recommend for your next retreats.
Nice. Suggestions always welcome.
Yeah, yeah, it's a beautiful lake I went to on Sunday. I already knew about it, but wow, it's truly amazing. Um, awesome. So how long? I know you talked about 3 levels, right? So I'd be interested to know more about how long the process is, and do you find that people that suit a certain level of your development usually suit one level and that's sort of where they stay, or do you find people actually escalating and evolving through all the levels and potentially, you know, reaching the third level? What's your experience?
It all depends on the students. Some
Mm,
people start working with me one-on-one straight away.
mm,
And some people go through group levels because usually level 1 and level 2 are taught in a group.
mm,
But as I said, occasionally I see someone who is particularly talented, or if we want to use some fantasy terms, force sensitive. And so if I find a person like that, it's like when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, and they know what they're looking for. And as soon as they see that this, what I'm offering is what they've been looking for, they're like, okay, I've arrived. I'm here, I'm home. I am where I need to be. And so when that happens, it's like an instant click. When that happens, then I work with them one-on-one straight away. And the progress as well depends on the student. You will see difference in the way you feel, in the way you perform, in the way you perceive reality just after a couple of weeks, or a couple of months for sure. And then after a year's time, you will become a very different person than you were to begin with. Very different, even to the point of looking different. And there is a video on my YouTube called The 7 Keys to Inner Power. That's my webinar recording when I'm talking about level number 2. So if you look through my videos on YouTube, you find 7 keys to inner power, and you look, I posted photos of my students before and after, and sometimes they literally look like different people. They look like a much stronger, a much more incredible version of themselves. So it's fantastic to see every time.
awesome, awesome. And yeah, now that you mentioned your YouTube channel, I remember watching one of the video that you shared with me after we had for me, it was a very, very interesting and enlightening conversation about, stars and humans, as you call them. And I think it's also something you've already mentioned, like some people are called to fulfill a certain mission in this lifetime. And I never really thought about that, some people might actually be very different and might have very different ways of perceiving reality and operating within this world. And in fact, let me say, the status quo, the normal way of living life could actually really, really hurt them and make their life very, very hard. So, yeah, do you want to talk a bit about that, like your perspective on how, you see some people being at a different stage of evolution in their spiritual journey throughout lifetimes, and how certain people are actually trying to behave and adapt to, the norms in society could actually be very counterproductive, to say the least.
All right, yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the stars. Essentially, people think that So well, some people almost see it as the rules of evolution don't apply to the human race, and they're like, yeah, we've always been the way we are, and we're always going to be. But essentially, this is not true, because everything in nature evolves at its own speed, obviously, but the movement is always there. Life is movement, and so what happens is a soul, any human being's soul, as it goes through different incarnations, it evolves, it gets older. It's the same as, let's say, in one lifetime, you're born, first you're a baby, and then you're a teenager, and then you're a young adult. And so with every year of your life experience, your mind and your body change, and you become slightly different. And if you look at adults and then you look at kids, and you notice how different they are in the way they look, in the way they behave. And so someone has never, ever, ever seen a human being. And so for someone like that, if they look at kids and if they look at adults, they would actually think, or they might think, that those are different species. And because they look different, they behave different, right? Different sizes, different shapes. So something very similar is happening in our civilization right now, but on a spiritual level. And I've noticed that recently more and more people who are born are actually souls with many lifetimes under their belt, meaning that they're quite old souls in the traditional terminology. And what happens, we are born in this world, every one of us, as a means to remember who we truly are and to come back home to our true essence and true power. And so every incarnation is a lesson. It's like 1 month or 1 year of our long journey throughout the centuries to find out who we truly are and to remember our essence. And that process of remembering is called the spiritual evolution. And the goal of that evolution is what people call enlightenment. And essentially, if you think what enlightenment is becoming full of light, or one with light. And these actually, we touch upon a concept that I use a lot in my work, and this is the concept of the light. And the reason why I refer to this energy as such is because there is an underlying force that flows through the entire existence, the force of light, the force of life and evolution that flows through everything. And if we could see it with our human eyes, we would notice that this energy has a shining quality, like, most energy does anyway. And because we don't really have many words in English that would describe objects and energy, especially that shines, we only describe it as light or fluorescence, right? The fluorescence is a bit too long to say. So essentially, the light or Star Wars was actually very instrumental in spreading this concept, because although the concept is obviously way older than the film, they explained it quite well. They called it the Force. And this is a very similar idea where you have this underlying energy that flows through the entire existence, and you can tap into it, and that energy is conscious, so it can help you transform yourself. So going back to our stars, what happens is, as you get older and older as a soul, you open up yourself to become more and more conducive to that energy. So more and more energy of the light flows into you, in simple terms. So I often tell my students, just imagine people like little pipes. And so the more you grow, the bigger the pipe becomes. And same like with water, the bigger is the pipe, the more water flows into it. And so the more water it can convey, the more useful and powerful it becomes, right? And this is the same with energy. So your mind develops itself and restructures itself to have more light flowing through you. And the amount of light that you hold as a person at any given time determines the amount of your personal power and your influence on the world. So that's a very simple equation. So essentially, the goal of any spiritual development is to become more open to that energy of creation and allow more of it to flow through you until you become more powerful and you can achieve more, whether on the spiritual level or on the mundane level. It actually doesn't matter, because that energy doesn't differentiate between what you want to achieve. So once you're powerful in anything. And so what happens is the people who are a bit younger, our souls, have less energy flowing through them. And obviously they can achieve less, they tire quicker, they age quicker as well. But the more energy of the light you allow to flow through you, and you can develop yourself to allow more than what you were born with. So that's the beauty of it. And so the more energy flows through you, the more you can achieve, the stronger you can become, both in your mind and in your body. And it also slows down your aging process. There is a reason for it, but I don't want to go into it right now because I don't want this to last for 3 hours. So, long story short, people who are older, or souls who are older and who have more of that energy flowing through them, when they reborn on this planet, and they feel that they have this mission to fulfill because the amount of power that they came with, they feel that they have this power for something. So their minds are different by necessity to hold and wield that amount of power. They had to evolve over the centuries to readjust themselves. And what happens is, when your mind has evolved over the centuries, you are now much powerful and much more different from everyone else. And because of that, chances are you will struggle to connect with other people. And because other people, I call them humans for the lack of a better word. I don't want to call them, you know, muggles or mundane or some such names. I just call them humans. And the folk that has more light in them and more power, I call stars. Very simple reason, you know, if you look at the universe, as above, so below. And so in the universe, you have the luminaries, like the sun, and you have planets that rotate around them. And so in our mundane everyday world, it's pretty much the same. So there are people who radiate light, and we call it charisma, we call it charm, we call it some inner, you know, attraction, because people don't really have words to describe what it is. And so the more light they have, the more they attract people who are like planets, and they start gathering around them. But because they're so different in their way of thinking, in their way of feeling and their mission, they struggle to connect. And so if you're born with a mission in this world, you will feel that you're different from everyone else. You will naturally struggle to connect with most people. Not everyone, because if you find your tribe, if you find other stars, most of them will be sleeping stars. A sleeping star is someone who is born with a mission to fulfill, but they don't know who they are, and they don't know about their power. And you will be able to connect with other sleeping stars, but not with other humans. And so if that's the case, don't worry, it just is what it is. Because sometimes those sleeping stars are made feel bad for who they are, and it's like, what's wrong with me that I can't connect with the majority of people? They seem to be interested in completely different things. So okay, they're like, so John, let's go watch some football on Friday night, have some beer. And he's like, actually, I'd rather just stay at home and research things and meditate. And they're like, what? Sounds what's wrong with you? You know, what's wrong with you? What kind of guy are you that you're like that? And so if you hang out with humans, I always tell my students, don't hang out with humans too much because they tend to bring you down. If you hang out with humans, and then they will inevitably pass this kind of comments. But if you meet another sleeping star, they're like, oh, what are you researching? And they're like, do you really want to know? It's like, yeah. It's like, okay, quantum physics and some neuroplasticity. And they're like, oh my God, I've been researching this. Do you want me to share my research with you? And they're like, yeah, for sure. So it's a completely different level of interaction. This is why if you feel that you're not understood by the majority of people, just look for your tribe, look for other sleeping stars. You are not on your own. There is not a great number of us, but we are around. So if you do look, and if you know what to look for, you will find. So essentially, unlike people who are more interested in the traditional Maslow's pyramid of needs, where they have the security at the bottom and they want, well, food, basically food, shelter, security, procreation are their priorities. Whereas for us, self-actualization, which for humans is right at the top, is our first priority. And we are the folk that we will just starve and live in, other people's places and sleep on other people's couches. But as long as we feel that we're following a mission, that we are bettering ourselves, we're happy. And we actually become really depressed if you have a cushy, secure job, everything sorted, holidays paid for, but if it feels meaningless, if it feels not in alignment with who you are, it is guaranteed to make you suffer. So if you notice that in you, it's like, yep, you're one of those. You're a sleeping star. You're here to change the world. So this is what I help people with. I help sleeping stars to find their path and unlock their true power.
Yeah, awesome. I was gonna say, like, would you agree that in a nutshell, almost your work does just that, helping sleeping stars awaken?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Awesome. And would you agree that then, for some people, because this is very interesting, as I told you when we were talking about this, I actually have Maslow's hierarchy of needs pyramid,
brilliant.
right in front of my eyes. But it was the first time that it occurred to me that for some people, it might actually be reversed almost in a way. Like, of course, you do need food, you do need shelter, but
it's not a priority somehow. It's just like, yeah, I need it, but whatever. As long as you're following your mission, you're happy. So that's the kind of mindset that we have.
Absolutely. Look, there's one question I really want to ask you now, and it might be hard to phrase, but this is actually something I've been thinking about a lot since when I read the book Many Lives, Many Masters by, I forget the name right now, some doctor, very, very, very famous writer. Like, why do you think a soul, which I see as an infinite kind of entity, that's been around forever, why do you feel that we need to actually have this material experience, and not one, but many of them, to then rediscover who we are? Like, why going through this?
Well, a simple answer is because we can.
Okay.
But what I mean by that is that you must have noticed that this part of the world is heavily affected by the energy of the shadow or evil, whatever you call it, the dark energy that is destructive for anything that is good. And so basically someone had to sort it out. And at the beginning, when that happened, there is a very old legend that a group of souls volunteered to go and sort it out. They were warriors, and they said, okay, we could actually go and we could do it. We could cleanse that world, that part of the world, from the shadow and restore it to harmony. And so off they went to incarnate. But the problem was that once they incarnated, they've actually lost their memory. And with that, they've lost the power as well. And so now, essentially, you could still do it even in an unconscious state, but it's just not as effective. So since then, we have to incarnate until we remember who we are and we can fulfill what we essentially swore to fulfill as our mission here. And then we can go do something else, have some celestial party.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a very, very interesting perspective. Do you believe this mission can actually be accomplished at some point in the future?
It has to be.
So in a way, it's sort of like almost a sort of spiritual Star Wars saga we're in, that we go from experience to experience, and it seems like it's almost over, but it's actually never over, just like in Star Wars. movies, and we just keep on, you know, of course I'm sort of making a joke out of it, but in terms of visualizing what it could be like for, you know, souls to reincarnate and go through different experiences, is something like that to some degree.
Well, according
And
to
is that why you like Star Wars so much?
I no. So, firstly, according to the legend, according to what I know, there will be a finite moment when that battle will be won. And when you think about it, it's the same as anything in the universe. Imagine someone falling ill, and so the red cells in his body will start and fight the intruder, the virus, until they succeed. And it can take a while. And so we are like those red cells and white cells of the blood, and we're fighting those viruses. And so obviously, because let's say if the illness lasts for some time, from that blood cell perspective, it can take a long, long time. But then for the body, it may take, say, a few weeks or a couple of months until it recovers. But on the scale of the universe, obviously, a couple of months would be thousands of years in human terms. And so essentially our part of the world is ill, and our mission is to help it recover. So this is what we're doing here. And the more light we can channel through ourselves, the more powerful we become, and the more effective we become as, well, warriors in this fight. And yeah, as I said, according to the legend, there will be one day when this illness, that shadow, will be overcome, and the world will come back to its healthy, natural, balanced state, which is preserved in legends as ARIYA, the Golden Age. So it's the Golden Age shall come again. Whether in our lifetime or not, probably not, but we should always strive to bring it even one day faster.
Awesome. As you're probably noticing for anyone's watching, it's first of all, you're very easy to interview because you've got so much to add. But also, I really struggle myself to try and keep this short. But nonetheless, that was the purpose of the interview. So, to close the call, I'd love for you to tell people where they can find you. And also, I know, as I mentioned, you're a writer. You've written more than one book, but there's probably one that you'd like to show right now. So yeah, do you want to show us and talk to our listeners about it a bit?
Absolutely. So yes, I'm a writer, and although I mostly write books for my students that are textbooks for my courses, I recently made an exception, and I wrote a book called The Lightwitch Chronicles. That's this book. And it's a very, very different and a very special book. It's a book for warriors, about warriors. And some of my students said that it's thanks to that book that they actually woke up to who they truly are and their mission, which is the purpose of this book, which is why I wrote it in the first place. And essentially what it is, it's a story. It's a fantasy story, but it's interactive because you can step into that world and you can live in it. As though, imagine if you read a book about Harry Potter and then you could actually step into that world and all spells were real, or you could take spells out of it and they would work in the real world. So this book is like this. What you learn together with the characters is based on the real world needs, and it's applicable straight away. So not only you are being entertained because it's got everything a good novel should have, like time travel and, you know, friendship and love and flying dragons and fights, lots of fights. So all of what you could expect, but it also teaches you how to understand yourself better. It teaches you on some level how to train your mind and how to understand reality and yourself on a deeper level. So it's a very special book. It's available on Amazon worldwide and wherever books are sold. pretty much from, well, I think any bookshop or big book retailer around the world will have it. So I would recommend going and checking it out. This is my favorite world personally to live in. So because it also merges with our world, so our world becomes way more interesting after reading this book.
Absolutely, absolutely. And where else could people find you? Let's say someone is interested in becoming one of your students.
Right. Okay. So I have two websites, one of which is 3w.ariyacrete.org. And I think we need to type it up because not everyone speaks Sanskrit. I mean, I believe in you guys.
I'm sure many do, but not maybe.
Yes,
Might be someone.
I believe in you guys. So Arya is a Sanskrit word for a warrior in spirit. It means someone who became different from the rest because of the work they put into their spiritual development. We just don't have such a beautiful word in English, sadly, so I borrowed it from Sanskrit. This is, by the way, one of my sayings: when in doubt, use Sanskrit. So I do. So one of my websites is ariyacrete.org, and this is the website about the philosophy and about why warriors need it in this world, especially now. For the practical aspect of my work and my courses, go to eliteMeditation.org. And Elite Meditation, well, both websites allow you to get in touch with me personally, but you can also get in touch through my social media. I'm very sociable, so reach out through Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. What else? What other? Minds.com. What other social media?
You on TikTok yet?
No, I dislike TikTok. I'm old school. I'm too old for that. I'm sorry. So no, just no.
Fair enough. Yeah, I must admit I actually ended up on it, and yeah, bit addictive. That's why I deleted it along with all social media from my phone.
Right.
But that's a different conversation.
Okay.
But yeah, you just like, wow, how many things are happening in the world right now, and how many of them are completely useless. And yet, sometimes it's good to have a laugh. Anyway, Jay, it's been such a pleasure. As I said, this is really a snapshot of one of the many conversations we had, and I'm sure we're gonna have again, and yeah, potentially, live on Facebook, or for other people to listen. I just want to thank anyone that's been watching, and please do reach out to Jay. I can say it's one of the most interesting and pleasant people to spend some time with. And of course, if you're also interested in what she has to offer as a teacher or read one of her books, I cannot recommend it enough. So Jay, thank you very much. Anything else you want to add to this live call?
Well, thank you for having me today, and I'm glad to be able to share what I do both with yourself and with our other listeners. If you guys have more questions, as I said, you're always welcome to reach out through whatever channel you prefer, and stay tuned for more lives, because I have a feeling that Patrizio may be inclined to do another live sometime soon.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, you have a good night, and I'll see you very soon.
Have a good night
Jay.
too.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.